Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Priya to go over Chapter 12, which is improving your personal fitness. And there are quite a few slides on this particular presentation, which I have not included in this video. I have put those on to the Canvas shelf for you all. But I do want to go over the ones that are the most critical so that you know how to improve your own physical fitness and health. Now, we have almost over a quarter of Americans who just literally aren't doing anything. They're not exercising. They are not involved in any sort of even leisure activity. And that can partially explain one of the reasons why the state of health in the United States is just ghastly. We have large numbers of people who are suffering from cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, diabetes, both type 1 and 2. Just the list goes on. And part of that can be attributed to the fact that people just aren't doing anything. And that has been even intensified because of the current pandemic that we are in. So not doing anything directly contributes to all sorts of health disparities. And this is important for us to understand that it's not just going to go away. There are certain things that we can do that are lifestyle related that can dramatically decrease our chances of obtaining chronic lifestyle related diseases. So physical activity is something that is going to involve a majority of the muscular system or the bodily systems, a majority of your muscles. It is a concentrated activity. It is planned. It has specific time and results variables. All of these things are going to improve your overall health, and they're also going to come with a significant amount of energy that you have to expend. So you're not going to be able to be healthy without, as the saying goes, no pain, no gain. So that's definitely something that we have to understand, because sometimes it will be uncomfortable and we are going to have to put forth a large amount of energy. Looking at some of the other aspects of the chapter, we see that exercise is something that is planned and structured. It's not just let me get out and do whatever it is and let me go, water the car or rinse the car off and think that's going to count as a physical activity. It has to have objectives and goals. It has to be structured. It has to have something that is that you can follow with a goal and a plan and steps. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean anything. And you can burn calories, but it's not really exercise. So movement and exercise are not the same thing. You guys, we have to get out of the belief system that if you have a manual labor job or if you are a coach, that qualifies as exercise. Manual labor and exercise are not the same thing, because exercise and physical fitness and health encompass multiple aspects, and you can't accomplish that with a manual labor job for the most part. Even if you're getting muscular strength, you're not getting endurance, you're not getting flexibility, you may not be able to work as much on your body composition. There are a lot of aspects of health that aren't addressed unless you have a specific plan of regimen. So it's estimated that physical inactivity, or not doing nothing, is responsible in not meeting the minimum activity recommendations. Is responsible for over almost a third of the diseases that we have in the United States, as far as cardiac disease, type 2 diabetes, which is directly related to lifestyle, and quite a bit of the cases of cancer. Now, of course, this is an estimation because a lot of the cancers are environmental, or some of them may be genetic. So we can't necessarily say with any sort of certainty that a quarter of breast cancer or colon cancer can be attributed to this, because maybe you have a genetic predisposition. So it's an estimate. I also, on a personal tip, I disagree with that estimate for breast and colon cancer. But that's, once again, it's just an estimate. It's not a hardcore fact. This is a long-standing and still viable skilled guidelines for Americans. Even though it goes back to 2008, it's really a landmark piece of information that gives a clear depiction of how much exercise adults, older adults, children, and youth should have. And we're looking at 150 minutes for adults. That's important that we get that. 150 minutes really isn't that much. It's only about 2.5 hours a week, and that can be broken up. And also, the more intense your exercise is, the less time you have to do it, because you burn more calories and you're able to accomplish more goals in a smaller amount of time if you have more vigorous type of workout program. But we're looking at 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week for the average American. And also when we look at the adults, oh, pardon me, if we look at the adults, if you're not able to do that, then you can just do as much as your body will allow. Your children and youth, they normally wouldn't have had this issue when I was growing up because we had recess and played outside and we rode bicycles and climbed trees and things of that nature. And now everybody has like an $800 cell phone when they're 7 years old. So there's not quite as much exercise going on now as there was when I was a child, but 60 minutes is what the kids need also. So if we can kind of stick to those guidelines, it would really help to cut down a lot of the incidences of lifestyle related diseases that we see. Some of the benefits, of course, we talked about breast and colon cancer, but also heart disease, which is the #1 killer in the United States. Just basically due to the fact that people aren't exercising and they're also eating like literal crap, but we'll get to that on another day. But exercise also strengthens the bones. When we talk about stress on the bones as well, some stress or eustress is the good type of stress, and your bones do need a good type of stress in order for them to maintain their vitality and to maintain their strength. They have to be strengthened, and if you're not on your feet, if you're not using your muscles, it's a musculoskeletal system, they're not going to be strengthened, and you are going to be a lot weaker than you normally would be. But also your joints won't have as many problems. Your brain actually gets benefits from the exercising because it helps to cleanse out some of the toxins in your bodies when you are exercising. You're sweating out toxins as well. It helps to decrease anxiety and stress and improve mental and emotional health as well. There's just a variety of things that exercise is really helpful for the body, and unfortunately, even though it does all these great things, we are not exercising as Americans, and the state of our health is just in an abysmal state. This graphic organizer shows you about the number of calories that can be burned with various types of activity, and this is per 30 minutes of activity. Keeping in mind that these numbers also change based on how much you weigh, how fast you're running, if you're running uphill, if you have weights on. So this is generally speaking, when we look at kcalories and the activities, it's round about 150 pound person. So if you're lighter than that or heavier than that, then these values may go up. Walking, things like yoga, as you can see, spinning, and there isn't a speed limit on spinning there, but spinning is actually really very intense and fast, and for 30 minutes you can burn up to 400 calories depending on what your weight is and the resistance on the spinning machine. Jogging, same thing, 30 minutes, but jogging at 7 miles an hour is something that a lot of Americans just flat out can't do, and that's why we oftentimes recommend that you walk, because people can walk for an hour or two, but they can usually only jog for about a few minutes without really passing out. So if you were ever wondering why you had to do that mile run test in PE, well, this is why. Most cannot run, not even for 8 to 10 minutes, but they certainly can't do it for 30 minutes at 7 miles an hour. So this chart just gives you a little bit of information on the types of calories that you can burn. And as you can see, it's not that much. If you are leisurely riding your bicycle, then you'll burn 280 calories in an hour, and 280 calories is barely a bag of chips. So keep in mind that it's very important to exercise, but you can't exercise all of your fat away. It's mostly diet. Now moving on to health-related components of physical fitness, and we've gone over those 5 briefly. I do want to note what aerobic and anaerobic activities are. So aerobic activity is something that you do with oxygen, and that's essentially the amount of oxygen that your muscles can use during a specific activity. Anaerobic, which is not on here, it means without oxygen, and that's because your muscles are literally doing an activity without almost any oxygen from the muscles themselves. That's why we pull from glycogen when we are doing anaerobic activities such as plyometrics and sprinting, because we don't have time for the kind of the Krebs cycle to break down the fat. We're using the immediate energy storages in our muscles, and so that's why it's called without oxygen. even though you can't do anything literally without oxygen, it's more of a figure of speech in some ways when we talk about anaerobic. So these aspects of physical fitness, cardiovascular or cardiorespiratory fitness, refers to your ability to do something for a while. So if you can run for 10, 20, 30 minutes, that's cardiorespiratory or cardiovascular fitness. If you are able to lift something heavy or not heavy, but the maximum amount of force that your muscles can exert is called muscular strength. And that's like a 1 RM in the gym. Versus muscular endurance is how long you can, or how quickly, how long, and at what pace you can continue to lift that amount of weight. So muscular endurance is similar to cardiorespiratory endurance or fitness, and it's a sustained period of time with that weight. And then flexibility refers to the range of motion of our muscles and our joints. And this is something that rarely can be done if you have a physical job. I have a lot of people always asking me if they can just skip exercise because their job is demanding. The answer is no, you may not, because you're not going to address all 5 of these issues with your job. And if you are a unicorn, and you probably aren't. Let me just say that. So flexibility is very important because it does help us to prevent injuries and muscular damage, which takes a very long time to heal as well. And then body composition is essentially the ratio of muscle to fat to essential body parts, things like that in our bodies. But it's mostly we look at fat and muscle in relation to one another. So all of these aspects are important and needed for optimal health and for overall health. You can't be healthy and then have a deficiency in one of them. And these are our skill-related components of physical fitness: agility, balance, coordination, power, speed, and reaction time. They are more contemporary models, which honestly you would do very well to incorporate into your fitness regimens, because things such as speed and power, they're just going to burn more calories than walking and jogging. If you're sprinting, you're going to burn more calories. If you are lifting with a resistance bench, you're going to burn more calories. So these are some of the contemporary models, which are more skill or sport related, that can truly add a gigantic benefit to your workout. Now moving on to committing. And a lot of folks have a problem with commitment, whether it's in a relationship or physical fitness, but let's not go there today. So what if you have not done anything for a while? No problem. You can start with basic activities that are not going to damage the joints, such as walking, jogging, maybe on a lighter surface, perhaps on grass or sand. Walking on dry sand is great for the muscles as well as the cardiovascular system. Just take it easy, basically. You have to start at smaller or lower levels, otherwise you will either become discouraged, you'll become too fatigued. There's a lot of things that can happen, but you really want to make sure that you're not starting at a level in which you will later not be able to maintain. As we look at the second bullet point, which is overcoming obstacles, well, there are so many barriers to working out. People are unmotivated, they get tired, they don't have the time. That's probably the number one complaint that I get when it comes to people exercising, is that they simply do not have the time. They are busy, and we get it, especially if you are trying to do an exercise regimen and you're at home and you have kids during the pandemic, or if you have downstairs neighbors and they complain whenever you do a jumping jack in your room. So that's something that we have to take into consideration. There are personal barriers, there are emotional barriers, there are environmental barriers. Maybe you are food insecure and you are not able to really exert the type of energy you need because you need to save your energy for other things based on food insecurity. Maybe you have some illnesses, maybe you have some physical barriers, maybe you have knee issues. There are a variety of issues that would preclude someone from commitment, but realizing that if you don't commit to physical activity, then you are actually committing to poor health. So this is something we have to find ways of mitigating in order to help people accomplish their personal fitness goals and really just to live a longer, healthier, stronger, and more independent life.